Hey guys, welcome back to Surveying with Robert. So we've got a treat for today. We've got Seafloor in the house. So James, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Colt, say hi.
Good afternoon.
So we're going to talk about drones, just water drones, not air drones. So these are the drones you put in the water. So today we're going to kind of kick it around. So you guys know that Colt is got a lot of experience in the hydro world, so I thought it was great to bring him in. Brought James in from New York.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he's out of New York.
Finger Lakes region.
So we're not going to hold that against you. I mean, we consider you a Yankee. You know, I mean, this boy's down south.
That I am.
So we have a lot of water down here.
You do?
We have a lot of water, and so I can see these drones being extremely beneficial. And you know, the thing about it is I've noticed in my travels that there's a lot of surveyors that don't know about these things.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
So Colt, you've got some experience with these. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, we do a lot of hydro work. I mean, we're finishing up a job today, as a matter of fact, in the Mississippi Sound, out in Pascagoula and Ocean Springs, doing some design surveys for a beach restoration project. All ours is mounted on a vessel, so it's not a drone in the work we're doing today. But we have used these, and they are extremely beneficial and increase, safety, production, access to shallow water sites that don't have boat ramps and boat access, so to speak. So it really, really improves. Well, let me say it this way. It adds another tool to the tool bag.
That's the truth.
For all of us that just make maps and all types of environments, this is just another great tool to have in your tool bag to whip it out when needed in the appropriate environment.
So what I see with these things is like, well, we were out there today. We went out to Flint Creek. We're going to do some stuff out there. And, there's what, 2 boat ramps out there?
There is, yeah.
That we saw. So, I mean, unless you've got maybe a flat-bottom john boat and about 3 guys to carry it in the water, these things, you could just pick it up, carry it into the water, drop it in, and let it rip.
That's the truth. Again,
So,
yeah.
so let's kind of discuss a little bit, because Colt, what you were doing is multi-beam, wasn't you?
With the drone boats, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So you're
multi-beam.
doing multi-beam. These are single beam, right?
Yeah,
Single or
the
dual?
The TriDrone can be, it's only single beam only.
Single beam only?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of go through that. Single beam, dual beam, what are we looking at? So basically, for most of you surveyors out there, this is a 4-wheeler with a GPS on it, and you're doing a topo. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know any other way to put it. You're out there on the water with the single beam. You're out there, you're running along, and it's picking up a shot every 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever you got to set up on. And so it's taking that GPS or a robotic, if you got a robotic total station set up, but every second it's pinging, and it's pinging the bottom of the surface, whatever that is, the bottom of the lake, creek, pond.
That's right.
And it's giving you an elevation no different than if you were on a 4-wheeler running across the pasture.
That's the truth.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Cole, with your experience, where do you use these at? Where's give me maybe a job that you guys have done where you used a boat at.
Oh, where
One of these,
one of these type
one of small boats.
a small boat.
Yeah.
We do a lot of bridge scour evaluations. So there are tons and tons of bridges in Mississippi here where we do a lot of this type work that are just over a small tributary, over a very shallow creek, over a very shallow lake. Sometimes it's just a ditch, but it's too big of a ditch to just conventionally topo. A little deeper, a little inaccessible. So
Gators.
Gators,
The gators.
yeah. So these work really good in, let's just say, a very inaccessible, wet environment. So you can pull over at the bridge abutment. You can pick this thing up. You can walk right down to the creek bank, set it in, do all your work, pick it up, and right back up to the truck.
Well, I saw James working with that TriDrone a while ago. He pulled out the box and folded it out. It was ready to go.
It is ready to go.
I mean, what? 3 seconds and you had it ready
If
to
that,
go?
yeah.
I mean, it's just like bam.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
And I've messed with the other one before, and you got to put some screws together on it, right?
You do. The nice thing about that, the attraction is, as a surveyor, is it has an upgrade path. When you're buying it, you can grow it with your business. You can add, auto nav, collision avoidance, hi-fi to it, Wi-Fi, all of these type of things you can add to it. So on that end of it, remote control situation, the auto nav, there's just not much you can do with it. You bring it in and you set yourself up. It's got all the software involved that you do the mapping, of your area, and you just turn it loose. But at any time you need to take a hold of it with the RCV, you can just go ahead and it'll return right back to where it left off.
So with the auto nav, it's like having a drone, like an aerial drone, right? You just
With
map it
brains,
out,
yeah.
and it just
It'll stay to the grid,
yeah.
yeah.
So it'll just map it out. That way you don't have to worry about setting your own grid up and trying to eyeball it and everything.
Right, that's exactly right. And it's good on larger bodies of water, You can set it up just like you have set here. You can run it with a GPS, base and rover. But you can also do it with a robotic total station, too.
Yeah, I ran into a deal with the Arkansas Highway Department where we actually set up a robot and used one with the Prism. And what we had was, which would have been great to have one of these little boats, but we were just using a sonomite, and they were in a John boat, and it was so low that they were having to lay down the bottom of the John boat to go underneath it. Well, GPS didn't work very well that way.
Sure.
So I hooked up a robot to it, and we actually used the robot to shoot everything in. So the versatility of that is pretty amazing.
It is. It truly is.
I mean,
Base and rover's good stuff as well.
Yeah, the R12s work really good, but not underneath the bridge.
No, not underneath
No,
the bridge. Right.
and that's a huge hurdle to jump because we do a lot. A lot of our single beam work is either one of two things. We have an E20 that we utilize, and we also have the sonomite. And that sonomite is what we typically use in these shallow water tributaries and shallow creeks because we can just drag a John boat down the bank, strap that sonomite on. We like to run a lot of stuff through HiPAC, but again with the sonomite, you hook it directly to the data collector, and you're collecting data.
Yeah.
Where the big hurdle is when you get a bridge, and if it's a 4-lane, 6-lane highway, that bridge is huge, and to get data, good data underneath that bridge, you're either post-processing some POSPAC data, or you got to have a total station. And to collect total station data on a boat is extremely difficult.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
Because I can see where underneath a bridge, these things would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we see a lot of applications with it.
To be able to scoot in and out and around.
When you
and stuff.
lose sky, the RTK don't work, and that positional data that you're getting on your boat is sketchy at best.
Yeah, man. So yeah, these I'm really interested because James and I are going to go out and we're going to go out to Flint Creek. We're going to play with these things a little bit.
Yeah.
Try to get some video on it and stuff. So I'm really interested to see what we can gather because I guess that's what keeps me in surveying, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's remote control boats, remote control planes. I mean, that's what keeps me in surveying right there now.
The technology gets more fun all the time.
I'm just a big kid anyway,
Yeah.
so why not? I think we all are.
Yeah, and we deserve it. We work hard for it. And, Cole mentioned a point earlier that is one that, if you've been in the surveying business for very long, that sediment, you can't tell most of that murky water,
That's
what it's
right.
like. You mentioned ditches and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And you start heading out in there with a rod, and all of a sudden you realize, and that's not a good situation. So on the safety side of it, it really does, you've got some tailing ponds in the mining industry. They won't let fellas get in the water anymore, So on that end of it, this is an answer for that. The pH levels of that stuff can get up there, and we've had these boats tested in waters like that, 7 to 10 on the pH scale, so it's good stuff that's really there. It's an HDPE plastic, so it handles everything. It's like, a kayak grade plastic. Right. And of course the salt and that type of situation which you guys run into here in your water bodies.
Oh yeah.
And it's brackish in some areas, right? So the maintenance is key. And a lot of guys, Robert, are talking about the idea of, how do I know this stuff's really working? How do I know if it's really 5 feet and it's not 6 feet? That's a big deal, and that's something we're going to play with today, just looking at the calibrations of this, staking out to data. Cole and I were talking about that. Starting a perimeter of your body of water, regardless of size, where you can reach out and get a rod in there and double check those heights. It's no different than any other calibration that we perform in the field, right? Mm-hmm. We want to make sure we've got accuracy. That's what we do. We're expert measurers in the field, and this is just an extension of that, taking your equipment from the the land out into the water bodies, the open water.
Yep. it certainly expands the footprint of what, of your mapping area.
Sure.
And here in South Mississippi, everything at times has a water body on it.
Huh.
And to be able to map that is crucial.
It's either water buddy or a mud hole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, up until probably 10 years ago when we started really doing hydro work, the way we did that is you put your hip boots on and you got to, or you went swimming.
That's truth. Yeah.
And did I mention gators?
Yeah. Yep.
I've seen some pictures. I haven't seen them myself, but I've seen some pictures of some pretty good-sized gators.
Absolutely.
Right
Absolutely.
some of them would swallow a kayak.
Moccasins and everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
And in these water bodies, you never know what you're going to run into. The servo technology, it steers like you said, it's a four-wheeler, but it's a zero-turn mower, on your front lawn. It operates like that in the water. You can turn it around on a dime. If you got a little bit of a current in the water, you can move up through that current, get yourself stuck. It's just not an angle you can't pull against it to get yourself away from it. And the nice thing about that TriDrone is the sensory's flush with the bottom of the drone.
So there's nothing to drag.
No drag. So it moves in the water real well.
Yeah.
And when it's time to bring it in, you can bring it right up on the shore like you would your canoe. So
How heavy are they?
it's real light. I haven't got an exact weight on it. I think we've got it on our spec sheet, but of course this old fella's brain is not grabbing that right now. But it is really light. If a guy like me can grab a hold of it, and I'm not a real heavy frame fella, and I got no issue taking it in. We hiked in about a half a mile to do a test on a pond. Went through the brush with it, just had it, didn't strap it, but I've got a gentleman right now in the Arctic. He's up above Italy, and they're mapping glacier lakes that have never been mapped before with
wow.
the TriDrone, and it's handling it. And they, some of the temperatures are 30 plus below zero, up in those areas, and it's operating great. And they're feeding us back some intel on that, and they're real proud to be using it. It's doing everything for them.
I would think that plastic would be so brittle.
Yeah, and it isn't. That's the good thing about that plastic that we have on it is it's canoe kayak grade.
Yeah.
So it's handling all that type of stuff.
I don't think I know what 30 below feels like. The heat index around here was 122 Monday.
You don't want to know what that's like.
I mean, 30 below that's too far away at this point.
I'm griping when my air conditioner in my office is down to it's like it is so hot in here that my air conditioner can't get below 75.
My AC guy, we saw him at lunch the other day, and he said 25 degrees is all you can expect. So when it's 110 outside, 80 in is pretty good.
There you go. Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm a North Country boy, so it gets cold up in my neck of the woods, but not 30 below.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I've never seen 30 below. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
No.
I had a guy hit me up one time from Siberia. He was running a TSC-7, and he was complaining about the touchscreen. And I was like, dude, move.
Yeah.
He's like telling me these crazy temperatures.
Battery life.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's the truth right there.
Yeah.
That's one thing, a lot of fellas will forget the idea about what these are. They're LiPo batteries, right? And understanding that technology, how to take care of it, what the charge is, when to discharge it, it's very important stuff to be able to understand it all. And, these batteries are, they're going to give you a day's worth of work, but if you're going in, at lunchtime, taking that battery in, throwing it on your dashboard to get a charge, and it's 100 degrees outside, guess what? That battery's not going to take full charge for you anymore.
Yeah.
And it's that type of understanding that you've got to put into this, to learn it and use it to its peak,
Sure. So how many batteries do they have?
The TriDrone has a single battery. That single battery will give you 5+ hours a day with no problem at all. And, we always suggest 2 batteries. You're going to be good to go. As long as you take care of them, maintain those batteries, you'll get work days out of them. And the return on that investment is easy. The Hydrone will take a battery per haul, and we suggest 4 in that situation. And, we offer an upgrade charger that'll charge it, very quickly, 2 batteries at a time, so the efficiencies are there, and, you get all the kinks out of it, how you want to operate it, that type of deal. But maintenance is key. It really is key.
Sure.
The design on this, Seafloor, we're pretty proud of the accomplishments we've made. Robert, you and I talked about, some of the historic aspects of things, and we've all grown into it. We've made our mistakes in the field. All of us have, anybody who's been in this for a couple decades, we have been, so it is no different than that. But today, these pieces of technology that we're putting in here, the auto nav situations, every one of these boats are made, and put together here in California. And it's something to be proud of.
That's like another country.
Yeah, no,
almost,
it is.
isn't
It is. It is. Yes, it is. But they do a fine job, and proud of the team that's over there. They got a good group of fellas. John himself is a Navy veteran, and he was out there doing this stuff, looking for mines in the water. So, he has a good head on his shoulders, knows exactly where he's headed with these vessels, and he's pouring himself into it. And as you can see him, I mean, that's something to be proud of. You got another tool in your box, like you said, Cole.
Absolutely.
It's an extension of what we can do with these things. And if you're growing the business, like you are here, Cole, you're seeing uses of this all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it certainly has an application that doesn't really matter how big or small your firm is. If you are doing any kind of work anywhere around or near water or what have you, this is definitely a tool to have in your tool bag. And from a price point standpoint, there's not really a good reason not to have it if you're trying to do any kind of work in the water.
That's
yeah,
true.
and it works with the existing tools, right?
Yeah, it
so if you've
does,
got GPS and robot, it works with those
That's
tools.
right.
So.
It sure does. It'll hook right up, for sure.
This is definitely something that the industry, needs. It fills that gap between conventionally surveying a water body and then being full-fledged single beam hydro with POS, positioning software, high pack and a boat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can spend $100,000 in a hurry and still not have very much in the hydro world if you're going to do, serious hydro work.
Sure.
But this is a great way to get into that market. Or if you don't want to be in the market, but you have a need just for like shallow, inaccessible areas that you use periodically, great tool to have.
Sure is.
Yeah.
And if you've been out there and you've struggled, up in the Northeast, I mean, you get into, months when the water's not frozen, you're surveying.
Mm-hmm.
And you're walking out into water, it makes your bones ache. It's so
Absolutely.
cold. And you let one of these bad boys go and do that work for you. Windy days, those type of things. You're out there struggling with the John boat, getting soaking wet. This really, really steps up that technology.
Absolutely.
The use of that technology
Absolutely.
is incredible.
What's the range on the controller to the unit?
It's 1 kilometer.
1 kilometer.
Yeah. In depths, 75 meters. So it'll really do all the shallow water situations that you're mentioning. And
Sure.
The sensory that you can grow into on the Hydrone is pretty incredible as well, because you can add a center hull to this, and it becomes what we call a TriDrone. You can see that there on the web page for Seafloor. The TriDrone, it moves into that beginning stages of the multi-beam scenario with the C-ray technology.
Right.
It goes right on board, and all of a sudden now you're taking a scanner out on the water with you, along with everything else that you've got rolling. So moving into that and growing that type of business is accessible now.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's that $100,000 and $200,000 that you're talking about, you can work your way to it. And
That's
like we
right.
talked earlier,
That's right.
those budgets that will carry our business, and the return on the investments there, it just has to be taken serious, growing into it, just like we do with our GPS. We all start somewhere, work our way up, and
That's right.
these
And-
vessels allow it.
And with those multi-beam units getting smaller and smaller, they're more, they're being developed in a more lightweight, smaller package to be able to be mounted on units just like this to get multi-beam data in those same small, shallow water, inaccessible environments.
Sure.
So, just for the guys that don't, like I was in Arkansas, I didn't know anything about doing any hydro work whatsoever. So when somebody'd say multi-beam, single beam, dual frequency, I was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So let's kind of back up a little bit. We're talking about multi-beam. What is multi-beam?
Well, let's talk about single beam first,
Sure.
and then
Okay.
we'll
go.
capture what
There we go.
multi-beam is. So single beam is just that. It is a single beam, an acoustic ping, as it were, straight down from the fathometer to the bottom, just like taking a grade shot out there in the open pasture.
So it's an EDM that's shooting straight down into the bottom.
Except it's using sound instead of light. That's correct.
Yeah.
Multi-beam is essentially the same thing. However, instead of having one ping going straight down, your nadir beam going straight down, in some cases you may have well over 500 of those beams spread out in an array that will cover, they won't quite get to 180 degrees, but it'll get 170,
Sure.
port and starboard from your under the boat, so to
Yeah.
speak. So it
So
won't
is it
quite
like-
get to the water line on both sides of the boat, but it'll get pretty darn close.
So is it just one straight line like a fan?
Yes, like a big straight line perpendicular to your vessel, like a big fan. That's exactly right.
So you've got a rake underneath the boat, and you're
That's
coming
right.
over there,
That's right.
and you're collecting all that information. So somebody asked me the other day about with multi-beam about they were talking about if you could find a boat in the water.
Yes.
So I know that like some of my buddies like Seaside and Finstermaker and some other ones, they've got contracts that when a hurricane comes in, that's their job is to go out and take their multi-beam out and see if there is something in the channel that
Yeah.
has been sunk.
Yes. A multi-beam is crudely put is underwater LiDAR.
There you go.
You know, it's a point cloud. In fact, whenever you're looking at the point cloud data, it's going to look just like your drone LiDAR or your terrestrial scan point cloud or what have you.
So how, I mean, like, you know, when you're looking at like LiDAR, you know, depending on how close you are is how dense the point cloud is going to be, right?
That's
so
right.
does that kind of work the same way? Depending
Yes.
on the depth will depend on the spacing in between those beams coming down?
Yes,
Okay.
more or less. Depending on how you collect the data, you can do equidistant or equiangular, and that will depend on the point cloud array, so to speak, as to how it's collected and that kind of thing.
So there is a little bit more complication when you're setting all that stuff, I assume.
Yes, and then the fact that you're in the water just further complicates things because, you know, the speed of light is a known thing, but the speed of sound through water is not. And as the water column changes, the speed of sound changes, and therefore the reflection of that sound off the bottom,
It's all based on time.
it's all based on time. So you have to take what you call a CSV, a sound velocity profile, an SVP, periodically to know how the water column is changing and where it's changing at, so that you can then post-process and correct that data so that it will all lay down smooth.
So basically, leave the multi-beam to the professionals.
Yes, Robert, but it's hard to be a professional until you've been an amateur.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's
I can
the
imagine.
truth.
But with the
Professionals are not just made.
yeah,
They're built.
They're built.
They're built, and it's a painful. But
It-
you know, I always say education is
It's expensive.
right?
It
You're
is.
going to pay for it one way or the other.
Yeah.
That's the truth again.
So I know that you know I've worked like I said with the highway department and Corps of Engineers and a few other people with the single beam stuff, and that really seems to be pretty popular.
Sure
with
is.
a lot, like I said, a lot of surveyors don't even know this technology exists. So they're out there with, like Colt was talking about, with waders on, or my favorite is a level rod hanging off the edge of the boat.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've all done it.
And you know, I've known people to, like, I know one person that had a rod with a GPS unit on it, and they were going down there. They were basically sectioning the creek,
Sure.
and the current caught them some way or another, and basically yanked that pole out of their hand, and their GPS unit went swimming.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've heard of that happening many times. So
Oh,
with,
yeah.
with this, you don't have to worry about that. I mean, these things are really stable. So
They are.
You know, because I mean, you're sticking a data collector and a GPS unit out there, and on the water, zipping around. They're extremely stable, so you don't have to worry about
You don't.
an accident.
It's a sealed unit,
It
so
is.
any water that comes over the top is keeping that equipment dry.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and you know when you're looking at the TriDrone, you know, the ability for it to fold up, you know, it's free flowing. So when it's on the water, it just adds to that you know stability. Those pontoons on the side are just
Yeah.
they're floating right along, just enjoying the waves in the water. But the benefit is when that beam is moving back and forth, it's about a 9 to 10 degree beam. And when that's rocking back and forth, you're still getting that ping. And like, you know, like Cole alluded to, it's still that straight line that you're hoping for. And that's where the accuracy of this comes into play. And again, we'll visit this later when we're out in the field, you know, doing these calibration shots and that type of thing. You've got to have common and practical sense. Cole and I were talking earlier about the idea. I just did a demonstration out in Buffalo, New York, and we were out on waters that were, you know, you don't put a vessel out on those waters. You had 2 to 3 foot swells on that water, but we had to TriDrone there, and we only had a couple days to do it. First day was fantastic. Second day was ugly. But what we did, we put it in the water, and I wanted them to just see what's going on. Well, the guy's looking at me like, oh my Lord, you know, he's thinking the thing's going to sink, but it's watertight, as Cole alluded to, and the maintenance of the gaskets and the things in there, just like anything else, Robert, you got to be able to take care of it, and it will serve you well on that end of it. The Hydrolite Plus that we have, you can take that off and with the transom, and you can put that on a John boat or a bigger boat, you know, or your weekend boat, and it'll do the exact same thing for you.
Or like I've seen in a kayak.
Yeah, truth.
And if you're a high pack user, you can stream it right into high pack and get your pause, you know, your motion IMU there, get it all talking together and utilize it in that fashion. It's very versatile.
So what's happening is with that ping every, like we talked about, 3 to 5 seconds,
Sure.
right? So that ping, that is being added to the GPS shot. So the GPS is taking a shot, you're getting the ping, it's adding the two together, and it's giving you that depth.
Yeah, it depends to that rod height you put in.
Yeah.
And on the TriDrone, that rod height is 1.42 from the bottom of the hull to the top of that rod that comes with it, stock. So if you change that, of course, just like anything, you got to add that to your rod height, right? So it's the same principles. It goes right within the same premise that we all are accustomed to in the field. It's not changing anything to, you know, to our regular SOPs. It's just adding to the capabilities.
Yep.
So like the TriDrone there, what is the price tag on that? Just ballpark.
Ballpark figure. Well, I'll give you. How about this? We'll go right for the fence on this one. It's $14,500 list price, and you know. It's a price that's very manageable. I mean,
So
we've all seen
what
it.
does that include, that price?
That price includes everything you see here in front of us, except for that prism on top there.
Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, that's yours. And so that's everything you see there. The sounder comes with it. It's embedded inside. You can't take it out. It's embedded right on inside the hull. It comes with the servo, and you know, the batteries, like on everything, are sold separately. Big reasons for that is a lot of shipping overseas and stuff. This is a global company, you know, they're selling these things. I think we got like 3,000 or 4,000 of these all over the world here, you know, operating. So, but the idea of it is everything you see there, it comes in that kit, and for $14,500, you know, you got it covered. When you go in with the Hydrone, a little different scenario there. The Hydrone comes in the kit, and that's going to be, I think we're right around about $8,000 on that, you know. And depends on what you...
just for the Hydrone itself.
Yeah, just for the Hydrone boat. And then you're adding, you know, you got to add your sensory, right? So you're going to add the Hydrolite to that. The Hydrolite Plus comes in the single beam frequency. It's a 200 hertz beam. And then you can add the dual frequency to it. It's just 2 beams there. And the second beam is a 30 hertz beam. That's going to get you, you know, there's a misconception there, Robert. And the misconception is a lot of guys are using this to say, hey, you know, I can see what the bottom is on this thing. And it's not the case. This is going to show you a good reflection of the aggregate that's down there. This to show you what that pack looks like. It has an echogram capability. If you're using echogram, you've got to use the HiPack software to accompany that at this point. And you bring that on in, and it just gives you another element as a surveyor to be able to have like an interface. It looks like a cross-section of the body of water that you're shooting. And you can see the top, and then, of course, you know, deeper into that aggregate. So it's another opportunity for the surveyor to have a deliverable that he can sell.
Well, you know, down here we don't have aggregate.
You
It's
don't.
just mud. It's
Mud
just
and clay.
Mud. So, Colt, how does that work out for you with the dual frequency?
Well, the last I checked, the dual frequency solder mic was running about 10. So,
So that 8 for the single?
Yeah.
8 for the single?
8
10
for the single.
dual?
Yeah,
That was the other $2,000 I stick in my pocket. That's
Yeah.
what
Gotcha.
you're
The
missing.
The
I understand.
dual frequency is 10,500.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, from that price point to then just, I mean, really, what's $4,000
Yeah.
to have the vessel itself? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're speaking the truth.
I mean, it's almost a no-brainer
Yeah.
to some extent.
Yeah.
But what kind of benefits do you see from the dual versus a single?
Well, for us personally, if I'm going to spend the 8 to get the single, I'll go ahead and spend the 10 to get the dual, in the sense of a lot of dredging projects and what have you. They want to know how much fluff is there. They want to know how far it is down to the hard pan, and
You're able to give them 2 measurements.
give them 2 measurements. That's correct. Some contracts require that it be the low frequency, and you don't get the low frequency in a single beam. You have to have dual frequency to get the low frequency data.
And what's a low frequency getting you? Is that getting you the very bottom, the hard pan, or?
It's getting you the hard pan.
Okay.
So high frequency is first return. So your mud, your leaves, your what have you, is going to be your first return high frequency data. Then your low frequency data is going to be that hard pan. That's going to be your clay, or if you've got a sandy bottom, then it's pretty much going to be the same number.
Yeah.
But if it's a muddy bottom, then you're going to get your high frequency first. Then your low frequency will then penetrate and get on down to what we consider to be the hard bottom, your clay or what have you.
That's one thing I've noticed around here is that in this environment around here is that that clay is what holds that water.
That's right.
What's on it's like a bathtub. It just holds the water in place.
Yeah. So if it's like a sewage lagoon or what have you, you got all your mud,
Yeah.
your first return data, and then you've got your liner and what have you that's below that that's holding everything.
Sure.
So if if you're trying to do some kind of volume calculation or trying to determine how full a detention pond or what have you may be, you would want both numbers.
So let me think. Sewer lagoon. Would I want to wade out there with a level rod or by a boat? Let me think about that one for a minute, right?
Just a minute. I'm going to give you a minute.
Yeah, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I can see a lot of uses for this, and it just amazes me at the number of people that I've talked to over the years that are like, that they're
Don't
like,
even know it exists.
Yeah, they're telling me they're using a level, or the one I love is where they tie a rock to a tape.
Yeah.
That one I love.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
like, there's some accuracy going on right
Yeah,
there now.
yeah.
You reading that to the
A
100?
tad primitive
That's
these
right.
days.
Yeah.
But if you got, $10,000 for a dual frequency unit, then you got to have some kind of boat to use it. So if you're using a John boat, which we use a John boat and a sonorite quite often, we have a little 2-horse outboard or
Yep. It's old age setting in, Colt. It's old
I can
age
tell.
setting in.
I can tell.
You got too much crap going on.
Oh, too much.
It's a
Hydro
good boat.
Write it down for me, and I'll tell you what
If I
it
could
is.
spell it, I would. Golly geez.
Can you draw it for us?
That's the motor on the front of your boat when you're fishing.
Trolling motor.
A trolling motor.
There it is.
Isn't it funny how some of those things
Golly geez,
just
it's right there. I'm
don't-
looking at
it's
it.
like it don't come out.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
So we use a John boat with a trolling motor, or we have a little 2-horse outboard,
Yeah.
and we'll put the sonorite on it there. We like to run it through high pack or what have you. That's not a always. It really is kind of project specific. What are we trying to do? Where are we at? But all that stuff's got to go down the bank. You got to haul it down there, and it's heavy.
I can imagine.
And if
That's
you-
where that little thing, because when I saw him unfold that little thing
Yeah.
out of the box, I was like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
it's got like handles on it. I saw there's a couple of handles
Yep.
on it there where you can execute.
I mean, by the time you buy the motor, by the time you buy the boat,
You've spent.
you already spent not $4,000, but you're working your
Hey,
way there.
I was at Academy not too long ago looking at John, because I was thinking about with us doing this. I was like, man, I need me a little chase boat or something.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the little John boats, and I was like, nah, I think I'll buy a kayak.
$1,000. I mean, you're $500 all day.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got your little outboard motor, which a 2-horse is not $200.
Yeah.
And if you use a trolling motor, there's an expense there, but
And battery.
battery. Let's just say $2,000. $1,000 for the motor, $1,000 for the
And
boat.
you're talking
you
about
get
carrying
two-
it down the bank. If
Yeah.
you've got a trolling motor and you got a battery and you're carrying that battery down the bank,
Yeah.
it weighs as much as the boat does.
That's
Well, then you got to make 7 trips to get it all down there. Where at the end of the day, and we run a lot of 2-man crews, and at Tice Engineering we run a lot of 2-man crews. That's more from a safety perspective than anything. But if I said I didn't run people by themselves and have just 1-man crew out there working, I'd be lying to you.
Yeah, every once in a while and it's
Man calls in
Guys,
sick, I still got to get some stuff done.
That's
Now we don't do a lot of line cutting by with a 1-man crew out there, but drone surveys where we're flying a drone. If you're doing something like this right here,
one man.
1 man, they can stand on the bridge,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
and see the
Top of the whole thing.
top of the whole thing.
Yeah.
In the environment that we're in here, there's too many trees for you to see it a kilometer away. So you're not going to be out of range.
That's true.
You can stand on the bridge, you can do the whole job, pick that thing up and walk it out of there in 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's efficient. And again, like I said earlier, Dr. David Rossi, he's in he's got a whole crew handling this thing, and they're literally backpacking that. You can see it on my post there on LinkedIn that he's got it literally strapped to his back.
I'd hate to know I had to
climbing
backpack a John boat anywhere.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. And, the versatility, the simplicity, when you're ready to deploy the thing, you'll see today when we drop it in the water. You pull that out of there, you got your battery charged, you got your hydrolite ready to go. It sits right on inside there. You turn it on, you power it up, it's seconds. You put it in the water, and you're recording data.
Yeah.
So with the HydroDrone, though, the advantage would be that you could pull that Hydrolite Plus out of it and stick it on. If you've got a little bit different type project, you could just stick it on your John
If
boat.
you needed something a little bigger.
Yeah. If you need it a little bigger, it has like I said, the upgrade path is the attraction to the HydroDrone for sure.
Well, even at that, well, let's go back to the TriDrone, right?
Sure.
I could put that in a John boat, go out in the middle of you're talking about hanging on a bridge. I could take and put that in a John boat, and I could just sit there out in the middle of the lake and just topo the whole thing from sitting right there in one spot.
Right there in one spot. And you're actually taking that kilometer with you wherever you go. So you become the radius in that measurement. So it's a situation where if you got a boat slip, you're going in, you got a harbor, you got to go knock on doors, right, to get permission to be in any of those areas.
Yeah.
But if you pull up the end with your boat and you deploy this TriDrone, you're going in and underneath all the docks and in between the boats,
You're still in the water.
and you're doing fine. You're not harming, hurting anybody. You're even chasing the ducks out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good stuff. It really is.
Man.
Versatility, again, with that servo, you're not backing yourself into a point. The technology with the skid steer technology that we had, at the beginning, you had the forward, backward. You're angling yourself out of there. You're pretty much stuck. But with this servo, you can change the angles and spin the tail of that boat loose till you're free. If you've got stuff in there, you put it in reverse and run it forward, and you can see that the weeds and stuff leaving right behind. It's just, that end of it's what's exciting about having it in the water. And I'll tell you what, it's a fun tool to use.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just really thinking that before the end of the weekend's up, I'm gonna get to play with a remote control boat.
There it is.
Tell me what the...
Can we put surveying with Robert on the side of it? We put stickers on it.
For you, no problem.
What kind of depth? How shallow will it actually collect data in? We know it'll float really shallow, but how shallow can the data?
Yeah, I would say, what I've seen, is in the field surveying with this, you can get about 9/10.
Okay.
You're right about there. And, the spec sheet's going to tell you that we really want you to be in 3 feet of water. And the reason is because when you're in those shallow depths like that, Cole, you're going to pull in a rock or 2 or 4, and you're going to damage some of the props and that type of stuff. So you can get in there. The TriDrone makes it sweet because of the flush mount that it has. You can nose it right in there in those real shallow areas and take your readings and back it right out of there. So you can do it with that. But if with the HydroDrone, you got to be a little more careful, especially if you got that dual frequency on there. It's a little larger.
Yeah.
In the new build of that Hydrolite Plus now, it doesn't look like a hockey puck anymore. It's cylindrical in nature. So the single beam has it's a cylinder, and then of course when you go to the dual frequency, it's a bigger cylinder on the bottom of it. So it's that type of it. For you, if you're really looking at those shallow waters, for sure the HydroDrone's got to be in that 3 foot of water, about 2.5 feet. The TriDrone, when you're talking about these shallows and inland waters and so forth, it really is a tool for it.
Yeah.
And that's something that's amazed me since I moved down here to Mississippi, because you go across that bridge, like going over to Ocean Springs, from Biloxi, and you look out there in that water out there in the Gulf, and you're like, man, that water must be 100 foot deep.
Yeah. It's not.
6 foot in most places. That's deep water.
The Gulf of Mexico is like the Mississippi Sound, 10 foot. It's
Is that right?
The main channel was 15 foot when I was out there in my boat, and I was like, wow, I thought it was going to be.
It's miles and miles out to the barrier islands, and it's all 10 foot deep.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Now, when you get out there to the shelf, it gets deep into the Gulf of Mexico, but by and large, the Gulf is
So, if
shallow.
you were working anywhere up and down the Gulf Coast, these things are going to be like, no problem.
Yes and no. Wave action is your Achilles heel on it.
Well,
So, we were talking earlier about a foot chop is kind of the ideal. You don't want more than a foot of wave action out there. Now, there's certainly times and days when that is not a problem to be a foot or less of wave action.
Yeah.
But
But it's like flying a drone, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes it's windy.
sometimes it's too windy.
Even with your total
That's
station
right.
in the field. you
But
know?
any kind of inland water, any inland water whatsoever, it doesn't.
It's not going to get choppy enough.
Well, I mean, I've been on the Ross Barnett when it was pretty choppy there in Jackson, but generally speaking, you could pretty much schedule your project and be there and not have to worry about wave action on a lake, an inland lake. Whereas out in the Sound, that's more of an issue. There's waves there every day. It's just a matter of how windy is it, how big are they.
Yeah.
But
Well,
any inland water whatsoever, you could schedule the project, and if it was really windy on the reservoir today, then tomorrow you probably be all right.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is the fact that this could open you up to projects that normally you would not even be able to
Oh, absolutely,
even think about doing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if the ability is there, which it is, we've already discussed the ability to be able to rent this equipment just for your project specific. I mean, that's the way you get into it. You rent the equipment, you do the project, you return it, and then once you build up the clientele and what have you with that, then buy one.
Yeah. Yeah. I know at NEI they rent. I don't know what. I think they got the Hydrone. I
They
don't think
do.
they got the TriDrone.
Yeah, they do.
They got the Hydrone. I think.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a great tool, and I don't know what NEI is renting it for right now,
I have
but
no idea.
but I mean, if you have any kind of project and you don't own one but want to try it out, that's a great avenue to try, is to rent the thing and just see for yourself that it's worth having.
That's
Yeah.
always the way to do it. See for yourself.
yeah. By the way, Freddie at the office is the one that handles all the rental stuff.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
anybody wants to get a hold of Freddie and find out what it costs to rent one, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And there's no real learning curve. I mean, if you can drive a remote controlled car in your
we're going to have
yard,
people renting these things just to play with them. Like I said.
Yeah.
and
I'm telling you.
I mean, if you use an RTK unit, then you've got all the training you need for the most part to be able to operate this equipment.
So one of the things I wanted to do while James is down is I wanted to show people how to set up the data collector to set up the survey style to
Right.
be able to collect this data.
Right.
Because I think that's another thing a lot of people don't know. I mean, you're talking about high pack and everything, but very simply in Access, you can set up. There's a driver in there for it. You can set it up so that it is it's pinging and it's giving you your information, your depth. It'll even
Yep.
give you on the dual frequency side. It'll give you 2 depths.
Sure will.
There's a style sheet that you can use if you want to export it out in a CSV format. You can drop that CSV file right into Business Center. If you were doing some scan work or some topo work up on the ground or whatever, all that data can come in one spot.
That's right. That's right. There's no need, utilizing this equipment prevents you from having to purchase like high pack. And not the purchase price of high pack is about like buying AutoCAD or MicroStation. I mean, it's
the warranties that get you.
it's the warranties
It's
that
an
get you where,
investment, yeah.
if you're running Trimble equipment, you add this on and you're working.
Yeah.
There is no, price point aside, there's no learning curve, so to speak. I mean, you can own AutoCAD, MicroStation, HiPack, Topo. You can own it for a year and still not understand how to use the software.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Well, here's a good one for you. So you saw Flint Creek. We went out to Flint Creek. Colt, you're familiar with Flint Creek.
Yep.
If I took one of these systems and went out to Flint Creek and I had a project and they said, "Hey, Robert, we need a topographic survey of the bottom of Flint Creek," how long would it take me with one of these to topo that whole lake?
It's going to take you a minute.
Yeah.
Months.
It's going to take you a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not
So,
sure how big the lake is.
It's pretty good size.
Yeah,
I was looking at it today and I was like, yeah, it'd take me a day or two.
I'd say it's probably
Good 3 days.
1,000, 1,200 acres, the whole thing.
But you know what my point is, though? You could.
You could do it.
You could do
You
it.
could do it.
The
You
answer
could.
is yes.
That is a project that if somebody asks you if you could do it, you just say, yep, sure can.
Well, I can tell you, we mapped Pelahatchie Bay on the Ross Barnett Reservoir in Jackson, and did it all with single beam, and we worked on it, I want to say, a month, but it's about 1,200 acres.
Yeah.
Mapped the entire Pelahatchie Bay section of the reservoir, and we did, I think it was 50-foot cross sections across the entire thing.
So, I mean, somebody can go to Wiggins, look on a map, Wiggins, Mississippi, Flint Creek, is just right outside. I think it's
Yep.
like 10 miles from my house.
Yep.
Can look at that and see. So what do you think for an estimate? Let's say 5 days.
Yeah,
5 days.
If you
5 days
plan
you
for a
map-
good solid business
So,
week, sure.
5 days you could map out
Weather,
Yeah.
right?
You could. Boy, it was pretty out there today, wasn't it?
It was.
You could map out that whole thing in a 5-day project, and I go back to the same thing. I mean, if surveyors that don't know about this technology, if they were somebody proposed, hey, I need you to do this, they'd be like, well, we can't do that. We don't have a big boat. We
Yep.
don't have all the things necessary to be able to do it. And then, I can remember, oh my God, years ago, we had to do some stuff in the Arkansas River right there at Fort Smith, and they were going to do some kind of crossing, like some utility crossing of some sort, pipeline, whatever. And we went and got somebody's boat that had a hummingbird on it, and we used that chart plotter in that thing to cross section.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have no idea if that was accurate or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to give you what it gives you, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, surveyors are real bad about looking and going, yep, got a check mark by it, I'm good.
With every trade show I go to, I have somebody tell me they put something together like that and they were able to do it, and they went through there, and I always ask them, it's our job to certify that work, to certify its accuracy. Can you do that? And the answer is no,
Yeah.
you can't, because you could go out there to that same bit of water and come up with a completely different data set.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
2 days later.
Absolutely. And when you're doing that in these monitoring situations, Cole and I were talking about this earlier, monitoring situation, whether it's a tailing pond or, retention pond, anything that they're, a man-made, pond, and they need to be able to monitor that. There's no better way to do it. I mean, we've all walked out in there in the sludge and like, what in God's name is underneath me? And, how deep am I going to go into this stuff? It eliminates all that.
So I can remember, this brings back some great memories. So I can remember my guys, back when I'm 95 to 2000, I had my own business. And one of the things we had to do was a sewer lagoon in Alma, Arkansas. Now we had Allen Canning there, and you did not want to be within 25 miles of the sewer plant if they were running Hominy. Am I saying that right? Hominy? But whatever this stuff was that they were running, oh my God. If that plant was running that, the smell would it would knock you down. So they had a scamp out there, and they had a paddle. And I'll never forget, it was one of those days, boy, am I glad I'm the boss, because I'm sending somebody else out there to do the cross-section on this thing. And I get a phone call, and they're like, we broke the paddle. Where you at? We're out here in the middle. In the middle of what? Middle of the sewer lagoon with a broken paddle. And I had to go to Walmart and get them a paddle.
Sounds like you're in a bind.
Yeah. And I was like, and I had my wife with me, and I'm telling you, we broke the fence line going to that plant, and my wife just started like heaving.
Yeah.
And it was so bad, and I was used to it by that time. I'd been out there enough; it didn't bother me.
You knew what to expect.
But it was hilarious. And those guys, I'm like, here's a paddle. I'm like, you want me to throw it to you? How do you want me to get this paddle to you guys? So just stick your hands in the water, and just paddle over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun stuff. I mean, of course, I don't even think that back then this technology even existed, right?
It did not.
So, but boy, would that have been a better solution.
It sure would have.
Of course, you'd had to take it down and buy like 16 tubs of rubbing alcohol after you were
Yeah.
done with it. But
Yeah. And again,
but you could have washed it.
You could have.
yeah, well,
you
I
could
probably washed it with bleach, but yeah.
You may even some of the tailing ponds. You're going to come out of there. We've got some, customers share pictures with us, and you see the foam scum and so forth on the side of it. But it's no different than what you do with your boat. You're going to get it up out of the water eventually, and you're going to clean it all off because it's got the deposits on it, right? So it's nothing different than any marine vessel's care.
Yeah.
It just needs to be cared for
Sure.
same
Yeah.
way.
Wash the scum off. So accuracy was a big thing that we were talking about earlier. So you and I are trying to come up with some crazy ways to. We've looked at these 2 ponds that I've got out here, and we're actually thinking about like running the boat across it. I'm thinking those ponds aren't that deep, 3 foot or so. But what we're talking about doing, and I'm not sure I really want to do this, but I was thinking about us going out there, getting some shots with the boat, and then go back out and stake those out and see how close those two tie together. It's just, I don't know what's in those ponds.
Just make sure you use a topo foot when you do it.
Yes, that's
I
it.
think that topo foot's going to have to be about 12-inch diameter.
Well, it may be, but be sure not to use the pointed tip
Yeah,
that you would
sure.
normally
Yeah.
use on hard
It
skate.
would, I think it would. I don't know. I think the pole would just disappear if I used a point on
Yeah,
it.
you need a pan or something.
Your
like
stuff
that, you
is
know?
not going to check well because it's going to be 2 foot off.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But well, and actually, we even thought about the pool. What do you think about that idea? We'd drop it in the pool.
You could easily stick it in the pool.
and then we could check to see. I like that idea a whole
Yeah.
lot better because I've got a floaty that
Yeah.
I use to hold a beer,
Sure.
and
That's
I can
it.
hold a rod right there next to it.
I love the sound of it.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
we're not going to do the pond. Forget the pond.
It's
Forget
too
I even
dry
said
to
anything
use
about
the
pond.
creek.
Yeah,
The creek has no water.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing has water right now.
Yeah.
The it's powder house dry right here right now. Speaking of which, you saw the ditch I dug out here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right through that low spot. That's how dry it is. I was
Yeah.
able to get out there. So yeah. Pool. We're going to use a pool,
Sounds good.
and we may have to put some beer in the fridge.
That's it.
We're going to use.
I think there's some in the what is it, the guest house.
Yeah, the guest house out
Yeah,
there.
it's stacked
Pabst
up.
Blue Ribbon.
It's all right.
I have no idea who bought Pabst Blue Ribbon
Yeah.
and put it in my refrigerator.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but you know what? I bet you it tastes good on a hot day.
Shoot.
After the second one, it won't matter.
There it is.
Beer is beer on hot days. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think the accuracies is probably the big thing because I know that there's been a lot of squawk over
Yeah.
the years
Yeah.
about, especially with the dual frequency. I know there was a problem a long time ago with the dual frequency. There were some inaccuracies in measurements and this, that, and the other. I know, and I don't use these things. I don't have many calls from them. That's one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast because I don't have that many people calling me and saying I need one. And considering where I'm at in South Mississippi and I cover the Panhandle of Florida for NEI, I'm just totally shocked. People aren't calling me going every day saying I need a boat.
Sure.
So Jason Tucker with GCT, he's talking about a project coming up where he's talking about a boat, a hydrone, I think is what we're talking about. A drone and using he's got an SX10. And we're
Okay.
talking about me videoing that whole data set together. So that ought to be pretty cool.
That
That
sounds
might be
good.
something worth looking
Sounds
at
good.
in the near future.
Yeah, and it is the accuracy that is, that's the biggest question I get, and it's globally. Everybody wants to know, how do you know? And it's the same thing. You don't want to answer them and sound condescending by any means, but the truth of the matter is you're going to confirm it just like you do everything else that you shoot.
You better be.
Yeah. Check, right?
Yeah, surveyors, man. I'm telling you what. It things have changed a lot, and it's the speed has killed us because what has happened is we're doing things so fast these days, and we're complacent about our data, and it's just always good, and we don't ever check it, and sooner or later that's going to catch up with you.
Oh, it sure does.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a deal yesterday, a demo, and I had some crazy stuff happening, and luckily I was paying attention to what was going on, so I was able to go back and see where I screwed up at, and was able to fix it. But I mean, it's so easy to we deal with so many numbers and so many things going on. We have to check. And this is no different than any other tool.
Yeah, when you're rolling along and you're seeing you're getting a good shot and your grid, it's consistent. Let's say it's 8.5 feet. You're rolling along. All of a sudden, now you're shallow. You're hitting 3 feet, and then it's again, and it'll roll along a little bit, and then you got 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
Right there. You need all right. Timeout. Something's going on. You got to look at that data set. There's either a structure down there. You're going to come back. You're going to go over that. With the servo technology, it's super easy to turn that right around and tighten that grid up right there. Give yourself a little extra data right there so you can see what's going on. Time to do it's right then, right? If you wait till afterwards, you're going to see it in there. You're going to pull it in, put a wire frame on it, and you're going to see these spikes. And they're not going to make any sense to you because now you're not there.
Yeah.
So it's at that particular time when I was using the Hydrone, I always went back to that to prove it or disprove it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And in that, it's just like it's not fail-proof. It's a tool, as you said earlier, Cole. It is a tool, and the idea, you've got to check your tool. You got to take care of the tools. If something's not accurate, you got to go back and you got to double
That's
check.
part of being a surveyor.
And
Being
yes.
able to know that either that stake or that point or whatever, you know when you walk away, it's either right or it's wrong.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
you want that confidence level and the versatility of it, like we've been talking about. It gives you that capacity to do just that. You can slow it right down, stop it right there, figure it out, see what's going on, check your connectivity, make sure, you get rid of all the bugs, right? You go down through the troubleshooting. And then, if there is a mechanical issue with it or it's electrical of some sort, then you can identify it. You reach out, either to the dealership that you've purchased it through, or you can reach out to Seafloor directly. And, like I said, on our webpage there, we have that support and service button. You hit that button, it goes right to our fellas. They're waiting for you. And, they get back to you. They're very prompt on it. And, whatever's going on, they'll help you troubleshoot it. If there's some training
Sweet.
needed, like Cole, we talked earlier, it's a very intimidating thing not to know what to do with a tool, right?
Yeah.
And so you start looking for resources, and that's why we value you, Robert, is the idea of being able to have access to that know-how is key. When you can throw out all kinds of resources and stuff, but there's nothing like having a fella that knows what they're doing walk you through it. And that's what we do in that community.
Yeah. Yeah, support's huge, man. If you can't get, I tell people all the time, don't buy it. If you can't get support, don't
That's
buy
fact.
it.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with it
That's right.
because it will break and you are going to have problems with it.
No, absolutely.
In the story.
That is.
Absolutely.
It is the truth.
So yeah.
With each of these guys, also when you're buying them, they're available are the spares kits. It has a spare motor, it has gaskets, all the essential things to help you care for it, make sure it's maintained over. We try to ask you, bring it in after 3 years. It's no different than any other vehicle that you're operating. If you're out on the water enjoying your boat with your family and all of a sudden it doesn't work, well, when's the last time you had it serviced, right? So,
Yeah.
you don't want to be the guy sitting there with a half a beer realizing, oh boy, right? So it's the same situation here. I don't know, myself when I was in the business, Robert, I when I surveyed every piece of equipment I used it like it was my own, and I took care of it, and I knew it's what took care of me and my family. So though they are toyish in nature, a lot of fellas say, "Oh man, you got another toy," but the truth of the matter is, like Cole said it perfectly.
It's your tools.
It's an extension of your tool set,
Yep.
and it broadens the capacity of your business model. It can elevate to whatever you choose.
And that's what gets me. And I mean, and that, now I can get on a soapbox about all this, but one of the reasons that I sell Trimble equipment is because I believe in Trimble equipment, right? And I'm big about buying tools. I'm a professional. I want to buy professional tools, and it's nothing about the name brand or anything else. It has to do with just the history that like Trimble has and stuff like that, and Seafloor is building that very same reputation that it's going to work. There's no like if ands or I'm not going to buy it and go, is this going to work for me?
Sure.
Yes, it is going to work.
It is, and it's an evolution, to get to that capacity, right? So, again, don't want to go too far down that road, but Seafloor has been around a while.
Yeah.
And in that time frame, you make some mistakes, And the truth of the matter is the executive team at Seafloor owns every one of them. They're not making excuses or pointing fingers in directions. They own them. Those were the growth pains.
Yeah.
And when you look at these models here today, and then myself as a professional, anybody I've ever worked with this, I make these suggestions just like you're talking about Trimble. It is a situation where you make the suggestion because you know it's a tool that works, right? And that's what you want for everybody that's in this industry. You want them to have a tool set that they can go to work with, take care of their families, and get the job done right.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's an evolution, right?
It is.
I mean,
There's no doubt.
it's just, and Trimble's the same way, right? It's just an evolution.
Every manufacturer out there is going through
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A buddy of mine, John Whidden from up in Nova Scotia, he's got that Atlas that he built, and to listen to his manufacturing process and what he went through and how
It was extensive.
it was, and his is a compressed. I mean, like Seafloor has been around a long time. And
Sure
they've,
they have.
They've developed stuff and they've made changes along the way. And I mean, this guy, man, he came out of the gate making changes, and it was just like change. Do this, until he got it exactly like he wanted it. And even we have talked since that podcast that we did, and I've got one sitting in there right now.
Yeah.
I need to do something with, and the collar on it for the prism. I mean, he's changed that since you and I talked to
Yeah.
him. And I mean, the growing pains a manufacturer has to get to this point
Sure.
is just it's
Yeah.
insane.
It's the truth. I mean, when we all started in this business, think of the vehicle that you were operating out of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then after a few years, you're upgrading, and you keep going till you got the vehicle, the box in the back that you want, that you pack. That's what it's about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's perfecting your craft.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. So if you wanted to inquire about one of these pieces of equipment, who would we need to call?
Well, you can.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. You can get a hold of Robert. Robert will send you on over. If
Yep.
it's something you want to do with a rental, Freddie,
Yeah.
he can send you on over there. Any of the dealerships that are selling any type of survey supply have access to this capability, and so anybody that's interested can get there. And if they can't reach out to the dealer in their region, I've got people all over the place, right? So I've got people calling from South Africa, Northern Macedonia, all over the globe, and they're looking for them.
So
And
check with your local dealer
that's
first.
it. Check
and
with your
then,
local dealer.
If you have trouble with that, then
Yeah.
just reach on out to Seafloor
yeah, and we'll line you right up.
and check
with 'em.
out their website, and you can get the contact information there.
Yes, you can.
Cool. I'm ready to go play with it.
All right.
You kind of got me fired up now.
I'll tell you what, I'm pumped.
Yeah. I want to go get in. You got work to do. You don't get to go play with us.
So I do have something else to do.
Yeah, sounds like you got lots to do.
I have quite a bit to do, but
Yeah.
I'm never short of something to do. So
Oh my gosh, I know what you mean. And I think that's part of owning a farm is
yeah,
compiles that a family, and then
there are a lot of things that will never replace the family farm, but sitting around is not something that you get to do very often.
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I know. It's for the last 2 weeks. I've been getting up at 4 o'clock every morning trying to get something done.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't fabricate anything else that's going to teach the lessons that it teaches for my kids or what have you.
Yeah.
But it is not for the weary.
Yeah.
this is true.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about earlier about
Yeah.
my wife, right?
Mhm.
Ordering pizza.
That's
That don't work out on the
yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
No.
No, we don't.
I'll tell
order
you, if you
pizza.
do have a farm, I mean, it's every day. I mean, they're counting on you as well, right? So it just adds to it. It's either who you are or you aren't.
That's
So
right.
That's the truth of it.
Yeah, I got 50 girls back there waiting for me to feed them now.
I'm gonna wait till it cools off before I do my chores,
Yeah.
but I've got to do them.
Yeah, I've got to do that this afternoon too.
Yeah.
Of course, I think I may have some help this afternoon.
You do. I
So,
brought my gloves.
There you go.
I did. I brought the
What's
gloves.
that? I go through so many gloves I quit even buying them.
I quit buying gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
I'm
me-
always losing them or working through them.
Yeah, exactly. I tear mine all to pieces.
Yeah.
So so you can reach out to me or NEI or any other dealer. I mean, I think a lot of Trimble dealers sell Seafloor, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Every manufacturer has the opportunity, right? But we do have, we're lucky in the United States to have some really solid Trimble dealers that, they do have either a rental pool or they actually have the, accessibility to, give you a quote on one of these.
Yeah. You can just reach out to me. You guys already reach out to me all the time, anyways. But just reach out to me, and I'll help you figure out where you can go get one of these things at. So,
There you go.
but yeah, man, it's been fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It's good.
I like talking about toys.
It is good stuff, for sure.
So I think we need to go find some lunch and some shorts.
There it is.
There you go. Sounds like you have a plan.
And I think I'm low on Dos Equis, so
No, while you're getting the lunch, we'll pick that up. on
pick
the
a
way
few
back.
extra bottles of Dos Equis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okie doke, guys, we're out of here. We got other more important things to do, like go play in the water. So, you guys take care. Appreciate you listening.
Till next
James,
time.
anything before we go?
Man, you can reach out directly to me, too. I should have thrown that in there. You can reach out to james@seafloor.com. That's an email, and I answer my phone and my emails a lot more than my wife wants
Or
me to.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn as well. You can see me
Yeah.
on there. Seafloor's got a presence there as well.
Yeah.
But, yes, there's no reason you can't get in touch and get one of these underway.
Okay. Cool bean.
Been great. Enjoyed it.
Good stuff.
Till
All right,
next
guys.
time.
Appreciate
All right.
it, man. Really appreciate it, James. Really appreciate you coming down
Pleasure.
and spending the weekend with me so we can get this done. So,
right.
guys, take care. Enjoy.